My name is Michael Lerner, and I'm very honored and delighted to be here with my colleague, Erlene Chiang, and with Master Liu, who we are very honored is going to give us a Qigong presentation. So I will first say a little bit about myself, then I will introduce Erlene, and she in turn will introduce Master Liu. And after the Qigong presentation, Dr. Chiang, Erlene, will give us a 15 or 20-minute presentation on traditional Chinese medicine and Qigong in cancer and grief work. It's a very great honor for me to be here with Dr. Chiang and Master Liu. What I want to say, for those of you who don't know Commonweal and don't know our work, Commonweal is a nonprofit center in Bolinas, California, just north of Stinson Beach on the coast. I started Commonweal 41 years ago. We have programs in health and healing, education and the arts, and environment and justice. About a dozen different programs varying widely from criminal justice and environmental health to work with cancer and healing, education, and the arts. For the last 31 years, I have co-led retreats for people with cancer called the Commonweal Cancer Help Program. And we have a number of alumni of the Cancer Help Program here today. And I'm especially honored and grateful that Jackie Jones is here. She's one of our alumni. She started the East Bay program, which continues to meet in her home. And she's also a graduate of the Wenwu School here, the Wild Goose School, and she's in fact wearing her Wenwu t-shirt today. So she is an extraordinary survivor and about to have her 70th birthday. And we honor your birthday and are so grateful you're here. So we have many other alumni here I could acknowledge, but Jackie will stand for all of them. The Commonweal Cancer Help Program, we've done 195 week-long retreats for people with cancer. These were filmed by Bill Moyers for his series Healing in the Mind, which was shown on PBS thousands of times across the country. And in these week-long retreats, we take only 8 people at a time, and these retreats are quite transformative. For years, the base for the psychophysiological discipline for these retreats was yoga. But I'm honored that Erlene Chiang will be joining us for the September retreat to teach Qigong in our retreat for the first time. So this is a major thing for us after 31 years to begin to expand our programs of psychophysiological discipline in our cancer retreats. And I wanted to say that. I also want to disclose that I am a patient of Dr. Chiang. She has been treating me, I think, for the last 2 years or so. And I came to her as a 73-year-old man with benign essential tremor, my hand shake, failing hearing, and memory challenges, and assorted other ailments that go along with being 73 years old. I've been engaged with integrative medicine for over 40 years, a student of integrative medicine, and Dr. Chiang, Erlene, is, in my experience, an extraordinarily gifted practitioner who brings great benefit to her patients and to her students. Dr. Chiang is I'm going to sit down now so I get the specifics right here. She's been practicing for over 3 decades. She received her BS and her DAOM, which I assume means Doctorate in Asian and Oriental Medicine or something.
Yes.
Yeah, from the American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Her MS in Oriental Medicine advanced research from the American Global University. And she has been an evidence of how gifted she is in this area. She has been an adjunct professor teaching traditional Chinese medicine, oncology, and immunology at the College of Traditional Chinese Medicine since 2011. She has her private practice here at the Chunghua Clinic of Acupuncture and Chinese Herbal Medicine in El Cerrito. We're meeting here today, where she specializes in the treatment of cancer and autoimmune disease. And she's also the senior administrative director of the clinic's martial arts school, which I mentioned, the Wen Wu School, which means the Wild Goose School, which offers classes in Qigong, Tai Chi, and Shaolin Kung Fu. She is also, and importantly, medical director of the Fountain Project Foundation, which is a nonprofit offering services to underprivileged families in the East Bay. So it is an honor and a privilege to be here with you, Dr. Erlene Chiang.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone, for coming. It's my pleasure to be here with you. And thank you for having this opportunity to bring the light of Commonweal to our school here. We're very, very flattered.
Thank you.
Yes.
So would you like to introduce your mother? And
Yes.
we will start with the Qigong presentation.
Yes. First, I'd like to introduce our Grandmaster Hui Liu. Grandmaster Hui Liu, as Michael said, is my mother. And she's been practicing Qigong and Tai Chi since she in her 20s. She found Dai and Qigong to be the most essential and helpful to her own menopausal symptoms when she was going through 40, 50 years at age. And she's also won the Grandmaster of Qigong at the World Congress in Qigong in 2004. So this opportunity, I have to bring Master Hui Liu out to give us a demonstration and share a little bit about her experience in Qigong, in this type of energy work that's about 1,700 years old, and what her experience is with Qigong, emotion, and cancer. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce Master Hui Liu.
I'm Hui Liu. I was learned Dayan Qigong from Master Yang Meijun. Just start 1978 until now. I was very sick, also menopause time, so make me busy and sick days every day. So after practice, I got well day by day. So that's when the student asked me to share to us. So I start open the class. So now I want to share to you guys. So I talked about the Qigong. I talk later. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
你先看 Rich 表演吧，开始吧。对，
那等表演的时候再讲。
那我现在讲吧。
This is my student, Rick Hodges. Later, let him show the movement. I gave explain to the same time. Okay. 今天to 环跳。Now start moving. Yeah, you do slow. So bring the open the body, yin meridian, bend the body, the yang meridian back. Now both hands hold the qi to lower dantian. And move to middle dantian. we have upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian. And stretch out, arm stretch, and do slower. So let the qi come from the body, come to the arm, to the hand. So we're gonna use the hand to collect the qi, give to our kidneys. Okay, then turn to yin meridian, go back. Now heels up, massage on Yongquan points. And collect the qi, concentrate the qi, give to kidneys. Now open and get out the devil's qi, the bad qi slower. So the bad qi out from between the fingers, 八血 point out. Now bad qi out. Now collect the qi one more time for those movements. Yeah, cloud the hand, close the fingers, concentrate the qi, give to kidneys. Okay, now bad qi, devil qi away. Hold the good qi, give to ourselves from chin to face. Give to Bai Hui, give to the head, the brain. Lazy fingers still work on the brain, on the head. Turn up, push up, stretch the body. Also get the good qi from the sky, from the universal. And the good qi come down, follow the arm, come down all the way down to the leg. Okay, now bend. To put down, and get up, get good qi up. Now it's get the earth qi. So up, then to lower dantian's high, give to lower dantian also. Now to the right corner. Now give the, we're gonna do this form. Move qi to the hand, to the finger, and to other hand too. Collect the qi, concentrate the qi, point on 血盆 and the collarbone in the middle. So that point is stomach meridian. Also another 5 meridian reach there. So point, collect and point. Okay. And this one, very unusual movement from yang turn to yin and make a big circle, yin and yang, the Taiji charge. Yeah, hold it here for a second. So the hand hold on the foot, the thumb on the top, other fingers on the bottom. Hold the first and the second toe. The first toe, the big toe, is liver meridian and the spleen meridian. So that other fingers hold to the other fingers and massage the top, massage the stomach meridian, triple point. The bottom massage the digestion, spleen, and the stomach, and the liver points. So from the top to the bottom, all works on the digestion. So after this movement, usually we have digestion problem, stomach problem, spleen problem. So usually work 1 week, you get it better. You get a good appetite. So because you work whole body on the stomach meridian. Okay, to the other side. So this movement two times. And in the right hand, cloud point on the triple point, stomach meridian. The other hand, make and turn and hold, make a big circle. That's the yin and the yang, Tai Chi chart. And same thing, the left toe hold on the left hand, hold on the right toe. So massage 3 times. So when you have stomach digestion problem, you do this one by yourself. You can do more massage. Now, we're gonna hold the chi up. Okay, hold it. So this is the whole form is 64 movement. This is 1/3, 22 movement. So we stop here, because we only have a short time. So now hold both hands, hold. So looking on both hands, 劳宫 points, your mind gave to energy gave to lower dantian. The lower dantian is in the navel, inside the navel, 1.3 inch. There and empty. There is the storage, the space. Also there we come from the mother. So that's point connect the whole body up and down and the circle on the waist and dual meridian to ring meridian all connect there. So we hold on the lower dantian is store the energy to the lower dantian. Okay, now to middle dantian. To middle dantian and start open. Start open, 然后的气 up, give to the head, give to brain. So the brain need energy. Also, the brain's problem prevent the problem. Okay, and closer to the yin tang point. So there is the memory and the active part of the brain. So give to there. Okay. Come down, middle dantian, sinking middle dantian, slow down to lower dantian, hold more longer. Okay, hand slow down. Your mind and send it to Hui Yin point, the whole body. Make a circle. Hands open. Still concentrate on lower dantian. Yeah, put foot together. Still thinking on lower dantian. So you always practice your lower dantian. You think immediately tangle, warm or hot, or work in the lower stomach organs, prevent illness and prevent even cancer, any kind of disease. So this today in short time we just showed the 1/3 movement from beginning to here, 22 movement. Okay, thank you. So we practice called 大雁气功. 大雁 means wild goose. 1700 years ago, a Buddhist monk, Dao An, developed this form, follow the Yi Jing, Ba Gua, and naturally, and the movement, like a lifestyle of the wild goose. The movement later, you can see some flying, drink water, looking for food. So that's, but every movement is sometimes open the meridian, sometimes it's work on the body's meridian, sometimes point, sometimes collect the energy from the nature. It's a very beauty and easy to practice. Auto practice this, we not need a big space. Like this space, you can practice. Practice also anytime, day or night. And we don't need a partner. We don't need a equipment. So convenient. I hope everybody can try this form. Okay, now let me show you the movement from beginning to the 22 movement. Okay.
Thank you.
We don't, we want to practice it, we don't need jewelry, we don't need glasses, we don't need anything, earrings to bother us. Take everything off. Also, I'm looking forward, not looking something, my eye focus in the air. Focus in the air, the natural chi, where I can collect the chi, collect the energy to our body. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you know Master Hui Liu will be 86 years old in 1 month? If she can do it at 86, you can do it too. So there shouldn't be any excuses for, I don't think I can do that, it's too complicated. We hear that all the time. So I always say, if she can do it at 86, she started when she was 40 years old, the Dayan Qigong form. I think she's an inspirational figure to show us. Okay, so next, Michael, I'd like to continue with my presentation. I'd like to show you a short presentation about some of the information and school academic stuff that I teach at American College. This is just 1/20th of what I usually teach. Some of them may be very technical, but I'm sure your level is very high. You'll be able to understand. So I will sit closer to my presentation. Excuse me, Michael. This painting is done by my father. 正气, balance and harmony. This is just a cancer fact and figure in California in 2017 about 176,000 new cancer cases will be found. About 3,500 years ago, in the Yingzhou dynasty, we have already have the word Liu, which means tumors, cysts, or polyps. And then in 2,000 years ago, the book of Zhou Li, it started the treatment of tumors already, okay? At that time, we didn't say about cancer, we talked about tumors, a coagulation of something as a form of tumor. In the internal classic, Huangdi Neijing, in the 1st century BC, it says, sickness qi attacks our body due to deficiency of zheng qi. So what is zheng qi? What is deficiency of zheng qi? And then in the internal classic, it says, things that make us go out of balance are emotion, our own emotion, external pathogens, our diet, our whole environmental, and our lifestyle can bring imbalances. Some of the etiology, the cause of the disease, there's the internal causes and there's the external causes. Some of the pathogenesis. Number 1, stagnation. What is stagnation? Do you feel stagnated sometimes? Right? That's that stagnation I'm talking about. There's a stagnation where you just don't feel good. And there's a stagnation where you feel, oh, my shoulder has a kink and I cannot move. That's also a stagnation. There's the phlegm, where sometimes you feel, when you clear your throat, sinuses, drainages, mucuses, phlegm. Then there's toxin, and then it becomes deficient. Notice I have a double arrow between toxin and deficiency. When it becomes toxin, the body has already lost its ability in zheng qi, in the recovery. So the body becomes more and more deficient. Okay, This is a very technical chart that I teach my doctoral students at ACTCM. The pathogenesis, we talked about stagnation earlier. Stagnation is a very early symptom. Very early symptoms. You know how the body cell changes 24/7, it never stops. Our billions and billions of cells changes. It just change. Even when you're sleeping, your nails are growing, your hairs are growing or falling off. Your body is changing. So at a very early stage, you feel you just don't feel right, the stagnation feeling, okay? And then that's the early symptoms. After the early symptom, you gradually, when the cell doesn't exchange information with each other anymore, okay, the metabolic rate slows down. Then we'll have benign cysts, tumors, or even polyps, okay? That's when at the early stage, when you have your colonoscopy, when you have your mammogram, that's when they will find these benign things. And then you'll turn into another double arrow into phlegms, mucuses, also known as dampness and wetness, okay? It's another early symptom. It will also cause benign cysts, tumors, and polyps. And then at that stage, so from stagnation, things don't move anymore. Doesn't mean 100% doesn't move. It means maybe partially it doesn't move and partially still moving because you do things like you eat healthy because I don't feel so good, so I'm gonna eat healthy for the next week. I'm gonna go on a fasting. So the stagnation removes. Or you go, I gotta go get some exercise down. I remember how well I felt when I used to do exercise. Then you remove the stagnation, things that you do to help yourself to remove the stagnation. If the stagnation is not removed, then the metabolic rate slows down, okay? For instance, you used to have a small sinus, now you have a sinus headache. That has gradually turned into a more severe headache. When you have bloating and gas, now it's becoming bloating and gas pain, okay? On top of that, you also have other symptoms like why am I having discharges that's not supposed to be there? I'm in menopause. Where's this discharge coming from? When, I've lived in this house for 10 years. I've never had any sinus, never had any mucus. All of a sudden, there's phlegm, there's mucus coming out. So that's the second stage, okay? And third stage is if number 1 and number 2 are not corrected enough or in time, then it becomes turning to toxic. When it becomes toxic, then that's when it becomes malignancy, okay? From benign tumor or cyst to become malignant, cancerous, okay? But from number 1 to number 2, even to number 3, takes about 5 to 10 years. It's not tomorrow. So you have time to correct that. So if the toxin is not taken out and the stagnation is not removed and phlegm is not removed, guess what? The toxin becomes worse. From 1 tumor, you will have 2, or go to the adjacent lymphatic fluid, and then it gradually go into the jingluo, into the meridians, then become metastasized. And then the zheng qi, your own zheng qi, keep on fighting to bring back the balance, to remove the phlegm, to remove the stagnation. Guess what? That's when I feel so fatigued. Because your body is constantly working 24/7, trying to remove the stagnation and phlegm. Whereas when you were in stage 1 or 2, you only had to do because you exercise or you start taking care of yourself. Then it was reversible. So when it becomes number 3, even number 4, then a lot of time may not be reversible. But I've seen stage 3 and stage 4 where we use integrative medicine or just use diet change, completely removed, completely from number 4 to number 1 to stage 0. I've seen that. Okay, so number 1, stagnation. Stagnation we turn into 2 kinds. Qi stagnation. Qi is a vital life force. It's that vibration when you feel. It's not like when you have hit your funny elbow, that tingling feeling. It's that soft, gentle, that tingling feeling. You go, what is that? Why do I feel that? That's the qi sensation. So when it becomes stagnated, you will have qi yu. Yu Yu is the Chinese medical term. Why do I put the Chinese medical term on there? So you can Google it yourself. What is Qi Yu in TCM? Those are some of the technical words that you can literally look up. These are the old traditional Chinese medicine, Qi Yu. And then if Qi is invisible, you cannot see your air, your own breath. You really cannot see. People with great training and deep lung training can see the air, can see different Qi, different aura that permeates all of the body. But most of us cannot see that. So when Qi Yu is when it's not stabilized yet, you will have pain, like for instance, here and tomorrow you will go to here, you will move from location to location. It's not one stabilized location. When it's at the Qi Yu places, most CT scan cannot find, or blood work will not be able to find what that pain is. So that is good. You're at the very, very early stagnation. But if this stagnation is not corrected, you're going to the blood. In Chinese medicine, in Qigong, we say Qi is the leader of blood. This is a very important term. Blood is the mother of energy, of Qi. So if Qi is the leader of blood, Qi leads the blood. The vibration pushes the blood. That's the life force. That's the energy. Okay. If the Qi continue to stagnate, then later the blood becomes stagnant. Blood, can you see blood? Yes, we can see blood. Right? Everybody can see blood. And what happens when that blood coagulate, becomes a cyst, becomes a pimple, becomes little spots on your face, becomes coagulated. That's something you can see. And at that point, CT scan, MRI, X-ray, blood work will show the stagnation, okay? So that's the next stage after Qi stagnation to blood stagnation, 血, Yu. What happens causes the Qi stagnation? When Qi cannot rise when it should rise. When you inhale, Qi rise. When you exhale, it descends. But what happens when you have a tumor in your lung? When you inhale, you cough, you cannot rise, right? When you exhale, it doesn't go down. There's a stagnation. That's just an example. Qi cannot descend when it should descend. What does cannot descend mean? When you eat, food descends down to your stomach. Blood pressure descends, right? When you rise, blood pressure descends. That's what I mean by descending. So when Qi doesn't descend anymore, what happens? You go esophagus, esophageal problem, stomach problem. So Qi does not rise. You always feel there's something, or thyroid gland stuck in there, okay? Qi cannot transform when it should transform. Now that's even more difficult to understand. Qi cannot transform. What's that mean? Qi cannot transform, help to transform food that you eat. The air, the oxygen that you inhale cannot transform into nutrient, into vitamin, into supplement. Therefore, then it doesn't transform into the nutrient, into the energy that you expected to do. For instance, Qigong, exercise. You go, I exercise an hour a day, but I'm still so tired, right? Have you ever heard people saying that, right? I slept 10 hours a day, but I wake up, I'm still tired. Yes, there may be some biological changes in the physical body already, but that's what I mean. It doesn't transform into rest. It doesn't transform into energy when it should have. That's the Qi stagnation. Number 2, I talked about 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, phlegm is caused from irregular transformation of Qi in the fluid, okay? Phlegm, mucus. Have you ever thought where it comes from, what it looks like, how is it formed? Is it really some decongestion will solve the problem? Or is it something else that your whole body doesn't transform that? So Qi is caused from irregular transfer function of Qi in the fluid, like the water you drink. I'm so dehydrated, but I drink 8 cups already as recommended, but I'm still thirsty. I'm still so dehydrated. It doesn't transform. The qi going to qi hua, qi transformation. The medical term is qi hua. So it doesn't transform into the fluid that your kidney, your lung, your skin, your hair should absorb. It cannot transform. There's the visible phlegm, candida, yeast infection, okay, where you can hear and see the discharges that are abnormal discharges. There's also the invisible phlegm. Invisible phlegms are like things you cannot see, like a tumor, a cyst that's already forming. That's more dangerous because you really can't see it until it becomes the blood stagnation where it actually forms, where it shows up on the skin. And then from that point on, if the phlegm is not taken care of, guess what? Sinus infection, right? When you have sinus congestion, gradually turn into a sinus infection. That's just one example. When you have some candidas, it turn into a UTI, it turn into a yeast infection. It becomes inflammation. And inflammation turn into heat, okay? From heat, then it turn into toxin, okay? That's when body really become imbalanced. Toxin, there's the external causes, there's the internal causes. Think about if you can think of any external causes right now. Something are like viral, okay? Cigarettes, bad oil, trans fat. We're using bad oil when you cook. Pollution, your occupation, your environment, your food, and etc. Those are the external causes that you inhale or you ingest internally that cause that stagnation, okay? So, number 4, from toxin, the body becomes more and more deficient, okay? Zheng qi becomes deficient, like the tree becomes wilted. So if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, stagnation, phlegm, toxin, and deficiency, in the world of oncology, we will say first is stagnation, like stage 0, stage 1, phlegm, stage 0, stage 1, then going to toxin when it goes to spreading to number 2, to number 3, or into number 4 stage, that's when it becomes malignant. And then the body become more and more deficient because your body spends so much energy trying to correct the imbalances, okay? Zheng qi deficiency. What is zheng qi, okay? Zheng qi is like your immune system. Your immune system, have you ever thought about what is your immune system? Immune system is not just your white blood cell. It's not just your lymph nodes. It's your whole body. Every organ has its zheng qi. The lung, the stomach, the 12 internal organs in Chinese medicine. Everyone has its own immune system. Okay. The immune system comes from a well-being of all the zangfu, all the organs. It's not just one system. If you got lung cancer, you can't just treat the lungs. You really have to treat the heart, adjacent joints, adjacent organs, and all the internal organs to see what is out of balance and how do you bring that back into the balance, okay? Fighting between the sickness and the righteous qi, that causes the zheng qi to be lower. A continuous breakdown of the healthy cells. So chemotherapy, radiation, they want you to break down all the cells. They want the new cells not to grow, so the tumor will continue to shrink or continue to die. Okay. At the same time, you also damage your zheng qi, also damage your good cells, your red, white blood cells, and all the internal organ, all the tissues start to break down. Then your body becomes more and more deficient. In some of the diagnosis methods, the observation, we observe a person's shen qi. Again, I'm using the word qi. Shen means spirit. You know, you can really tell someone if they have good spirit when you meet them, when you first walk in, and how their spirit changed throughout the whole conversation with you. Color, the complexion. In Chinese medicine, there are 5 different colors that we look. For instance, on the skin, on the face, on different part of the body. If you pay attention carefully, you will be able to see the 5 different colors. Each color represents a different disease. physical shape and size of the body. I had a lung cancer patient at stage 4. He was 68-year-old Chinese man, and I've treated him for 2 years. He wants chemo, chemo, chemo. I said, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. Okay, so the tumor grew bigger and bigger in his right lung. He gradually walking like this every time he comes in, literally walking like this. Because his tumor is so big, it's actually distorted his whole body shape. You know, I've had chiropractor, I've had osteopaths come in. We also worked on him, but the tumor just got bigger and bigger. So that's the size of the tumor. It got bigger. It didn't get better. It got bigger. Okay, so the whole body shape changed. Very interesting. You know, a lot of time I tell people, if you may think it's a simple hip pain or growing pain. I had one patient that I've known for 20-some years, the healthiest person that I've known. And then she complained about sciatica pain for the longest time. So finally I said, she's my friend. I said, why don't you let me look at you? So I go, oh, it's your shoes. We corrected shoes. She said, good for 2 weeks that she didn't have any sciatica pain. She said, my pain is gone, thank you. Then no good. I said, okay. 2 weeks later, come back, still no good. Then I start palpating. Now I treat her as a real patient. She lies down on my table, and I start palpating. I go, oh, what is this? There was size like a golf ball in her right inguinal area. It was already her hardened lymph nodes. It was already turning into cancer already. Yeah, so it was already stage 3 at that time. So it was that tumor that was pressing on the sciatica nerve and the inguinal nerve in here that's causing her sciatica pain. So that's why we look at the physical shape and the body. Skin, looking for swelling, rash, boil, tumor, skin cancer, or irregular hardening that you feel. But be careful, when you feel something hard, don't go, I got cancer. No, maybe not. Maybe it's still at that qi stagnation where it bulges out. It hasn't turned into a blood stagnation yet, okay? And look at the color of the phlegm. If there's phlegm, for instance, if there's blood, okay, could there be lung cancer, okay? And look at the urine, look at the mucus, the discharge, look at the bowel movement, listen to what the patient complains about the bowel movement, the smell of what the tumor smells like. It smells very foul smell. The whole room will smell like rotten meat when that does happen, when the cancer erupts from internally going outward, become like a volcano, erupt, and it smells like raw meat. And look at the tongue, okay? The tongue and the pulse diagnosis are the most well-known in traditional Chinese medicine. The tongue quality, feel free, you can copy this down or Google it. We look at on the tongue, on the back of the tongue, there's a kidney, bladder. In the middle of the tongue, there's a spleen, stomach, like in the middle. On the side of your tongue is the liver, gallbladder. In the tip is the lung and the heart. And there's the tongue quality, we look for the redness, pale, and all different colors on the tongue. Okay, in the next couple of pictures, I'm going to show you a couple of very extreme tongue coating, okay? And I have permission from my patients to show these, okay? This was the patient that I was telling you with a golf ball-sized lymph node cancer, stage 3. This was at the very, very beginning when on your right, she was first diagnosed, and this is later towards the end. Look at the big and swollen, no longer skinny and thin, and then look at the crack. Look at how red that tongue is. Look at the changes from stage 3 to stage 4. Okay, and unfortunately, her oncologist in hospital, they really screw her up. I am sorry to say that, but I didn't want to point that out. She's already in a bad stage, but they really messed up her surgery. She went to have from 1 small surgery into 4 major surgery because of complication. So this is what we look at. In the tongue coating, we look at if it's white color, yellow, gray, or black, or no coating. Like the previous one didn't have any coating, was just red, right? So different color, different coating, different tongue bodies represent a different internal stagnation or phlegm or mucus at that time, or has it turned into toxin. We also listen to the patient's voices, breathing, talking, cough, vomiting, sneezing, and etc. A lot of time we will hear that cough doesn't sound right. It's not normal that you are vomiting. You're not pregnant. Well, why are you keep on vomiting? And the abnormal sneezing, those are all something we look for. Okay. Pulsation. First, we talked about the tongue. If you've ever been to your acupuncturist, the traditional Chinese medicine uses tongue and the pulse diagnosis every time. Examination of the pulse. So on your left-hand side, there's 3 different pulses here. Okay? Heart, liver, kidney. On the right-hand side, we will place our hands on your radial pulse, lung, spleen, and kidney. We will also examine the tumor and cysts, like what I did with that patient with the inguinal and lymph node. Also, we ask about the patient's food intake that includes taste in the mouth. Can you still smell the food? The quality of food and the quantity of what you eat, because we believe food is medicine. It's very important that we work with the patient very closely on their nutrition, importance of eating and drinking. Okay. We smell, like I said, the smell of the cancer, okay? Smell of the disease. We ask about, are you cold, hot? Where's the pain, sweating? Okay. These are just some of the other questions that we ask. For instance, any dizziness, neuropathy, chest stuffiness, palpation, appetite, bowel movement, abdominal distension. How's your emotion? How is your regular sleep? How's your diet and nutrition and your weight and your medical history? And we build a teamwork for them. And treatment plans with other medicine to make this a complete medicine system. And just some of the theory that we'll go over right now. 5 elements, you probably heard of that, okay? Yin and Yang theory, the yin and yang sign, the Zang Fu organ, the internal 12 organs, the qi and the blood theory, the meridian and the channels. These are 5 major theories that we've been using since from 2,000-3,000 years ago to now. We still follow these very, very closely. So traditional Chinese medicine follows these theories and the tongue and the pulse. This is just some of the meridian and channels, okay? So when Master Liu was doing the Qigong, she talked about how, the opening of the meridian, the yin meridian, the yang meridian. So these are some of the channels and meridian. It hasn't changed in 2,000 years. It's still the same, okay? And then I wanted to bring this out. This is also some of the meridians that we use. This here is a picture of the lymph nodes, all the lymph nodes in the body. I found so interesting, so many collaboration that on top of each other, they lie right on the meridians. So from where the tumor is, where the cyst is, we look, first go, okay, on which meridian? And then we'll go, okay, palpate along the meridian if there's any lymph node involved. Very interesting. A lot of it is right on the meridians. Okay, so this is our last slide on treatments and methods, I think. Yeah, this is our last slide on treatment plans and methods. There's a lot of treatment plans and methods, Michael, that we use in Chinese medicine. So this ends my PowerPoint. I'm over time, sorry. So you just got a class from a doctoral program at American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. This is part of I also teach at NCNM in Oregon, Portland, at the Naturopathic College. That's exactly what I teach too. Yeah, so this is some of the very detailed, in-depth of works that to be able to understand, you have to feel your own energy first. You have to understand where is energy, how you generate, how do you maintain. When the energy becomes stagnated, what is stagnation? Then you have to see ahead of patient what happened to it if this is not treated. So that's what I teach. Yeah.
Thank you. So as you can see, we're entering a vast universe of theory and practice, thousands and thousands of years old, recognized by the World Health Organization as one of the great traditions. As many of you know, there are other great traditions, Ayurvedic medicine, many other great traditions in Europe, naturopathic medicine. So the great traditions of medicine that predate Western science were based sometimes on principles and belief systems that are quite different from what Western medicine believes. While I was preparing for this today, I just took a quick look at what Wikipedia says about traditional Chinese medicine right now. And it's fascinating for those of you who know how Wikipedia works. Sometimes there are kind of wars that go on between different points of view, and different points of view kind of try to edit each other out. So who's ever at war in Wikipedia right now is very hostile to traditional Chinese medicine. And so there's this diatribe in Wikipedia about, how unproven traditional Chinese medicine is, and all the, undocumented assumptions and so on. Then I went to my friend and colleague, Dr. Andrew Weil, who's great authority on integrative medicine. And Andy Weil, contrary to Wikipedia, says he has a deep faith in traditional Chinese medicine, particularly for complex chronic problems.
Yes.
And so the point is, the thing I want most of us here are inclined to believe in traditional Chinese medicine, but for those who will hear the podcast or see the video, I want to acknowledge that this is a controversial area from the point of view of mainstream medicine. So if you have a physician who is skeptical because he reads Wikipedia or whatever and hears that it's all, it's all untrue, I want to acknowledge that's one point of view. But from my point of view, having studied integrative therapies for 40 years, I prefer to take a cultures of medicine approach. I prefer to take a medical anthropology or sociology of medicine approach, which simply says, look, there are different points of view. And at the end of the day, you pay your money and you take your choice. And if you believe that Western medicine is all you want and need for treating your cancer, more power to you. May you do well with it. May it work well for you. That said, from over 30 years of the Cancer Help Program, 195 retreats, and well over 1,000 participants, I can tell you that traditional Chinese medicine is one of the things that has proven most helpful empirically to our patients again and again as they deal with nausea and side effects of chemotherapy, of radiation, and so forth. So to have Dr. Erlene Chiang with us, who's really a master of this, gives you a sense of the complexity of the universe in which you do your work. So now I get to ask you some questions.
Okay.
You talked about pulse diagnosis. How many pulses do you feel when you feel a pulse?
6 pulses on each side. Each organ has different pulse, about 17 different kind of quality that we feel. Some are slippery, some are pungent, some are string, some are weak, some are knotted. It all represent a different diagnosis. And you have to see where your finger is lying on which organ in order to diagnose what is wrong with that.
Right.
So
6 pulses on each side, but many different qualities of each pulse. So is it a multiple of 12 total?
Yeah.
So what does that multiply out to in terms of the total number?
Well, when you multiply out to, I will say, first of all, the practitioner has to be very calm and very intuitive to feel what they're feeling. Most people go, it's just a pulse. I don't feel anything. No, it takes your master teacher will teach you how to feel that pulse. And you go, oh, that's what it feels. So you can think about what's 12 times 17 pulse. That's whatever that amount that is, right? But it's really, the significance is how well you can be able to pick it up. And also, if you hold your pulse too long, the pulse change Sometimes they slip away, sometimes the quality change because you're applying pressure on it. And then the initial feeling of the pulse changes. So that's what a very experienced practitioner use back in the old day, even until today when there is no other diagnostic tools. Yeah. So that's what we use for pulse.
So when I come into your office and I sit down in one of your little treatment rooms and I take off all my wallet and stuff and cell phone and everything and sit there, and then you come in and you say, "Oh, Michael, how are you today?" And then you sit down in front of me and say, "Tell me, what's going on." And then you ask to see my tongue, right? So you look at my tongue, you ask about my bowel movements, you ask about anything else that's going on. Then I lie down on your table, and actually before I lie down, you do my pulses while we're still sitting together. And then after you've done my pulses, because I'm curious, sometimes you tell me what's going on.
Sometimes I don't.
Sometimes you don't, but
oh, good. I'll make you come back next time.
Right. But just for an example, recently you said to me, everything else is calming down, but there's something going on in your liver. You said, do you have lead or mercury toxicity? So what pulse were you listening for?
Liver pulse.
Liver
pulse. Liver storage the blood, and then that's where all the toxins will store in there.
And so
from lead and mercury.
From lead and mercury. Whereas for other chemicals, it might be somewhere else?
Maybe somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, but mostly liver.
So how did you learn not only to detect that something was going on in the liver, but that it was actually potentially a lead or a mercury issue?
It just came up. It's that intuition that we were talking about.
All right.
It's that intuitive feeling that it just came up.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were the one that raised the intuitive feeling, because we have to be careful in talking about this. But you have shared with me, and I have your permission to say, that when you do someone's pulses and do a diagnostic, that it's almost as if a film of their past, present, and even future begins to unroll in your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
And that's very extraordinary.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I always ask myself, and my friends ask me, is that your imagination or is that real? I go, well, why don't we ask the patient then, right? So what I see, when I facing a patient in front of the patient, of course, I'm very engaged. And then all of a sudden, the image will come up. It's usually sometimes a flash, sometimes a film. And then when I work on tumors or cancer patients, when my hands are on the site, then the picture really begins to roll in. It has nothing to do with the patient's present, nothing to do with the color you're wearing, the time of the day, or how I feel. This picture just pops up. Then I go, oh, I get it. That's what's going on.
So you have to be very quiet in order for that to happen.
Yeah, I'm always very quiet inside. Sometimes I say, sometimes I don't say, sometimes I'm allowed to say, sometimes I'm not allowed to say. Yeah. So
what fascinates me about this is, first of all, that I believe it. And the reason I believe it is that there is, in fact, a long history of intuitive diagnostic abilities. And there's a history of the ability to transfer healing energy to someone else.
Long distance, right?
And these two are linked, but they're not the same, right? There are some people who have the intuitive diagnostic ability, but don't have the ability to transmit healing.
Yes, they're different. It depends on the level of practitioner, how gifted they are given. Yeah.
And so, for example, for those of you who know the history of integrative medicine, the founder of holistic medicine in the United States is often considered to be Edgar Cayce, who was an extraordinary man. I really encourage those of you who are skeptical about these kinds of things to read a good biography of Edgar Cayce, because truly, Edgar Cayce had the ability to go into a trance and to do extraordinary remote diagnoses, and then come up with incredibly novel treatments, and had enormous impact. And really, and then ever since then, I mean, I'm sure before then too, because really, we're talking about the shamanic tradition, which is, as you know, the shamanic tradition is as old as the incest taboo. Mm-hmm. These are the two bases of human being on the planet. That there's always been an incest taboo, and there have always been shamanic healers in all of the traditions. And many of them had these gifts that we're talking about, which then get translated in different cultures into different forms of medicine, in your case, traditional Chinese.
Actually, Michael, I think everyone in the audience, everyone has that intuitive energy and power to diagnose.
Yes.
But I believe in our text that up to 3 years old, a child still have that behavior. You know, I had one patient who was 72 years old, suffered from lung cancer. She passed away already. And I introduced her to do our Qigong here. So after 6 months, 7 months of Qigong, she was my patient, and she said, Erlene, I have to tell you something. I said, what? You know, she said, you know, my power has came back. I said, oh, your power came back. She said, when I was until I was 18, 19 years old, I was able to read the newspaper in the next room. You put, my parents are reading, I can see exactly what they're reading. You put a newspaper in my hand or any writing, I'm able to read it. Some people have this special power. Maybe you do too. And when she was starting Qigong, then she goes, my power came back. I can see that same thing again and again. So I do believe that's, you know, possible. I believe that everyone has that ability, but it's not trained or further nurtured in that sense.
First of all, I agree with you that everyone has extraordinary intuitive powers. I used to do talks with a friend of mine, Chet Chizuski, on intuition, and he was a master of having reviewed the literature in medicine, business, the military, and mathematics and the sciences. And the point was that people who were in touch with their intuition had extraordinary gifts that went beyond what one could ordinarily understand. So even if the intuition isn't trained, it often seems to me, and it seems to some of my colleagues, Dr. Mark Renneker and others, that when a person is dealing with a chronic illness, or just dealing with their health, but dealing with cancer and other chronic illness, that paying attention to their intuition, even if it's not trained, can be a powerful source of information.
Totally, totally. I also had another cancer patient who was a head of nurse in, I forgot one of the state. And then she saw her cancer inside her breast.
Yes.
Since she was a nurse, head of nurse, she insisted that, you know, they have to do a biopsy exactly where she said. No doctor will agree. They said that no insurance will cover because we didn't see anything on mammogram. She said, just do it. So the third time they went into biopsy deep enough, they found her cancer. So that's her intuition. She saw that intuition.
And you often find in your work, as you've told me, that you will be able to say to a patient, I sense that this is going, get yourself a CT scan or get something, and then it shows up.
Yes.
So for me, finding a really gifted traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, to me, is an integral part of, to me, sane cancer treatment. So the way I think of it, you know, the four basics, diet, stress reduction, exercise, and finding love and support, make you a healthier person with cancer. That's the start. But then if you want to go beyond those four pillars of health promotion, which of course interact very deeply with your presentation, then traditional Chinese medicine seems to me to be one of the first places to go.
That could be one of the first places to go. I always tell, you know, the patient, do whatever your, you know, believes in first. Try it out first, so long it's not too late. You know, you don't want them to dig a well when you're thirsty already, you know. That's why, Michael, you're holding this talk so wonderfully on TCM medicine. Then they will know where to gravitate to. You know, if their medicine, what they're doing doesn't work, don't wait. You know, cancer cannot wait. You don't want to wait until, you know, I have 2 weeks, I have 3 weeks. No, you really cannot wait. You should take action right away. Find the right practitioner and the right medicine that works for you.
So let's talk about finding the right practitioner, because you make a big distinction between the kind of traditional Chinese medicine that you practice, and I think you call it modern
Yes.
Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, which is what we want here, the modern Chinese medicine does not confer all of the same benefits.
Yes, the traditional Chinese medicine is a mind-body acupuncture, mind-body traditional Chinese medicine. Why do they always say acupuncture? Acupuncture is not a Chinese medical doctor, because this was back in the 1970s. The American Medical Board say, well, if you call them CMD, Chinese medical doctor, or OMD, it's very close to MD, so they put us into the category of acupuncture. So traditional Chinese medical doctors should practice both acupuncture, medicine, mind and body. On top of that, acupressure, meditation, and exercise, and diet, and nutrition. It should be all included in this TCM treatment. The modern Chinese medicine, they skip all that. Okay, you have a pain, okay, let's just treat the pain. They'll go directly to the pain instead of taking the time to inquire about how the steps that I was talking about, your diet, your meditation, your exercise, how did it become the stagnation? So they just treat the symptom. TCM go to the root. In the Chinese medicine, in the internal classic that I was showing on the Huangdi Neijing, in the internal classic, it divided into two sectors. One is spiritual pivot, Ling Jiu, okay, that talks about the emotion and the spirit, the mind of each disease. So that could tell you that's already very rooted, that how your emotion is related to how your disease is. So TCM, traditionally, we treat the patient, not just their disease, but their emotion, their spirit at the same time. So that's the differentiation. Instead of being a technician, or really treat the patient to the bottom, and then see how you can support and bring the balance back into that patient. Yeah.
I have watched, participated with friends and colleagues, some of my friends, physicians and other health practitioners, have experienced an expansion of consciousness over time to greater and greater access to intuition at the level that you're talking about. And I've also experienced it in a more modest way in my own life, because I'm not a particularly gifted, intuitive person. I'm useful in the world. I'm sort of tough enough, but that toughness gets in the way of my sensitivities to some of the things that some of my more sensitive colleagues can understand. But witnessing the development of these skills, so in you, they're highly evolved, they're highly developed. And in some of my other colleagues, witnessing the growth of it. And then in my own life, I'll just take an example that I was very agnostic about whether the spirit survives death when I began this work. But over 30 years of doing this work, I've had more and more and more experiences that just pragmatically, were pointing me in this direction. And so what I'm pointing to is that if a listener or someone here in the audience is skeptical about what we're talking about, it may have a lot to do with the size of the energetic field that they are willing to open themselves to.
Yes.
But then, when you're working with an expanding energetic field, this question that you asked about, is this just, quote, my imagination, or am I really connecting with something? So how would you advise people who want to connect with their intuition, sort of open themselves up energetically? How can they tell whether what they are experiencing or hearing is likely to be real for them or is simply an imaginative construct?
Well, what do you think, Michael? I'll start, and then you can add on.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you do a lot of meditation, and then your knowledge is very, very deep. I think, first of all, always stay grounded. Stay grounded no matter how chaotic your life, your family, your neighbors, yourself is. Stay grounded all the time. You know, stay grounded. How do you stay grounded? It's so easy to say. You know, there's a lot of things people can stay grounded. But first time when you first wake up, start breathing, right? Start watching your breathing. Slow down your breathing. Okay, slow down your mind. Slow down your thoughts. Okay, then that's a meditation. Right? And then when you start practicing that, you can start incorporating that all the time. When you're eating, when you're talking, like when we're having a conversation here, it's a meditative form. Right? My mind is not racing, my blood pressure is not high. You know, I'm very calm, I'm very peaceful. So are all of you, right? You are here, and you have to stop thinking about where you're going to be next. You're going to be wherever you're going to be next, for sure. But you are here. Are you here? Are you in your mind? Are you in your spirit? Are you in your body? Or are you out there? Your body is here, but your mind is elsewhere. That's not, you cannot find that meditation power, that meditation skill that will take you to go, oh, I get it. This is how I should solve the problem. You know, that's an intuition too. It's not an image. Everyone has their own intuitive energy. Everyone has their own meditation skills and then yours practice. You know. But what comes to mind, a lot of times you have to examine, oh, that is true. You know, what I believe is true, and I will go towards it. So it just comes naturally when you become very grounded, when your mind becomes very clear, everything starts coming to you. But when you want so much, sometimes it doesn't come. Or when you don't believe that you have the skill anymore, when you don't believe in that, then you really will not have that intuitive power because you are already blocking that in your sense. Yeah.
And
what do you think, though?
well, just following up on what you just said, sometimes when you're working on me, you say to me, now, Michael, stop thinking. My work can't really do it unless, and then, you know, so you do the needles and this, that, and the other, and then you leave me in the room alone for half hour or whatever, and as you go out the door, you say, now, remember, stop thinking. And so for me, that's quite a challenge, you know, that, you know, one of the things that it's hard for me to stop. What I believe from the Cancer Help Program is that you really can tell the difference between imaginative play and true intuition. And that when true intuition comes to you, you tend to know it. There's a sense
when you walk in the room, you go, this room is so peaceful.
Yeah.
That's intuitive meditation, right?
Exactly.
When you walk into a very unpeaceful room, it's very unpeaceful. And you have to trust that. It's true, right? That's intuition. That's simple.
Right.
Right?
Now, we learn best from stories, so I have to ask you about your story and the story of your family, which is quite extraordinary. The starting place for me is that when you were a little girl, you were putting needles in your dolls. Is that right?
You have to tell them the secret. That's a true story. When I was 5 years old, we were living in Taipei with my parents. So doll was like something luxury. We were poor. We didn't have no dolls. And my father brought back a doll from United States. It was just a 12-inch, doll that you can buy from Kmart. Not Barbie. Don't know what Barbie was. So the doll, other people would dress up the doll. As a girl, you dress up doll. You play dolls, right? And me and my neighbor, Ah Fang, and we were always, after school, we would go up. After our kindergarten, we would go up to our room, and we would take out the doll. And Ah Fang is always my nurse. I always order her, hold the doll. I'm going to give the doll a shot. So she's never the doctor. I was always the doctor. Talk about control, right? It's the control. So I didn't have needles, so I used thumbtacks. I don't think I used that on you yet, but I use acupuncture needles. So I used thumbtacks. So a year and a half, that's all we played. every day. So I didn't know I had a love for Chinese medicine already. I thought that was something that everybody played with the doll. We didn't have money. We know how to fold paper clothes, right? With our color paper. So I didn't want to play that. Doll was, we put needles on different parts. I would take it out and reinsert it. That was the funnest thing I've done for a year and a half. So I really started practicing at age 5. Mm-hmm. So my interest in Chinese medicine is I always love, things that are living, inspirational when they live. Why cancer then? Why do I specialize in cancer in the past 20-some years? Cancer is a new living being inside a body. It's something that transforms into something that you and we don't recognize. Oh my God, you changed so much. What happened to you? That's that same living thing that I'm talking about, that it changed into something new that's very interesting, that I would like to see what's going on. What is the spirit of this new living thing? So my parents, my late father, who passed away at age 95, he founded the school with my mother, Master Liu. He was a Chinese practitioner for 60 years. I came from a family of 4 generations in acupuncture. One of my great uncle was the last emperor's acupuncture Chinese medicine doctor. Mm-hmm. So it come down to me. So I think I'm just in my blood. I just wanted to do, Chinese medicine when I was very, very young. And then when we were young, when we were all required to do martial art, Qigong, and Tai Chi at age like 5 or 6 years old. There may be a picture on the wall somewhere where we were doing our martial art practice. That also helped us to be very brave and then to try to stay focused and move beyond what a 5, 6 years old can do. Up to now, I still practice Qigong and Tai Chi, and thanks to Master Liu, she really pushes the practice. And my late father, Dr. Chiang, who is one of the pioneers in the 1976 in Sacramento, who pushed acupuncture to be legalized with, back then, the Governor Jerry Brown.
So when did he come to the United States?
In 1972.
In 72.
Yes, by
himself. And he came with very little money?
With $27, enough to buy a return ticket, a single ticket home.
If it didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
Yeah. And so when he came here, what did he do? How did he start out?
Well, he started out practicing. He started out living with his teacher in San Francisco, and then he started practicing Tai Chi with him and teach some classes. And then he started at Rock Ridge Bar Station. Underneath the Rock Ridge Bar Station, you see there's a plain field. It's still there where people walk their dogs now, where that's like a dog park. That's where he started. He started practicing. He started practicing Tai Chi, and gradually people start approaching him back in the 1970s when Bruce Lee hasn't come out with the martial art Kung Fu yet. So that's how he started from 1 to 2. This place you're sitting in is the headquarters of Wenwu School. We also have different Wenwu schools throughout the United States. We also have one in Japan, Hawaii, and Wisconsin, Portland, and in Iran, and one of our Iranian teachers is here, Sonia. Yeah, she's here. Yeah. So this is the headquarters. This is where he started. Yeah. He still has that $227 that he never used. He showed it to us. That this is my story. Yeah.
And when was this center founded?
This center was founded back in Albany in 1972. We've been here since this El Cerrito building in 1985. Yeah.
Now, you personally, from what I understand, you work 6 days a week, don't you?
Yes.
And from quite early to quite late.
No. You work how many days a week?
Well, you're not talking about me. No, it's true. I'm like you in that regard. But I don't know. I think maybe the difference is that I don't know you well enough to know this, that maybe it's similar. For me, my work is a form of play. And so it's not stressful. And
it's not work.
I'm just doing it because that's what I like to do. It's like breathing or something. So But nonetheless, you play 6 days a week.
I play my dolls 6 days a week.
So
we have about 20 minutes left, and before I open it up for some questions, Kira, could we get the, if you have anything written down that you'd like to give us, you can give us that. And obviously, this is only skimming the very surface of such a beautiful and complex universe of work. But simply to say that the reason I invited Erlene to come and work in our cancer help program, which is for me the heart of my work for the last 31 years, I really thought that that what you do could be of extraordinary benefit, and that I wanted to see it close up. And I also want to learn Qigong myself, and so I will have the double benefit of being able to participate in your Qigong classes and see how it helps others. I guess one other question I would have is, when we were watching Master Liu do the presentation, it did look complicated. And I wanted to ask, how much benefit is there for somebody who may find it challenging to do everything that Master Liu and her colleague were doing, but in simple form? How much benefit is something that's quite approachable?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah.
This form of Dian Qigong has 64 movements. What you just saw, it's only the first set. We have second set. We have Pai Da Gong. We have other Dian palms that we haven't even showed you yet. So that's a good question. It seems very complicated, but remember, she's 86. She can still do it, right? And then also, in the 64 movements, in the very last 7 movements, then each movement becomes another 7 movements. So you're actually making it more complicated. We're talking about almost 100 movements. That how is people going to master? Each movement actually itself is based on the traditional Chinese medicine. You know, just as the first movement when Master Liu was showing the opening, can you imagine? That seems like a very simple movement. But think about it. Your both feet are grounded on the floor. Your feet are stepping on the yin and the yang part of the world. Okay. Your qi and the blood has already circulated because your mind intentionally tell yourself, I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to stay calm. First of all the nervous system has already calmed down. Your blood pressure has already decreased. Your mind intentionally knows what you wanted to do. Then as you open the form, your whole body starts stretching. Your back, your spinal cord, your peripheral nerve system, your central nervous system are being re-stretched in a very soft and gentle way. And as you extend your arm, Master Liu talked about this big field of qi is a universe that you're holding like a ball, that the qi began to tingling. Even that is just one movement itself, it's enough to balance. And you also saw where Rich was helping to doing slapping, where the toxin, the qi was coming out through the hands. Even just 7 movements is enough to balance the liver, kidney, pericardium, heart, and all your internal organs, because it's that balance. It's the balance and harmony, as I was saying, in Zheng Qi. What is Zheng Qi? Do you have your Zheng Qi today? You know, it's simply just that immune system we're talking about. You know, like I said, each organ has its own immune system. Each organ has its own Zheng Qi. Okay, it's that Zheng Qi, that balance we have over the times off balance, and we need to bring that back. You know, so that's how the movement can be helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We promised to say something about grief, which we haven't spoken about. So one of the questions we have, can you speak about grief? It is new territory for me. So how do you work with grief?
First, accept, you know, what's causing the grievingness. You know, really accept, you know, and don't deny it. You know, understand the cause, then you will know what's causing the grieving. And then, if you understand the cause, you still cannot come out of the grieving, then ask for help. One of the things is grieving is also a stagnation. In grieving in Chinese medicine, it belongs to the lung meridian.
Yeah.
Lung and large intestine dominates the emotion, it's grieving. So work on singing, for instance, work on walking, deep breathing, that will all help to open up the lung. When the lung, the cells inside, everything begin to stretch open slowly in a very, very gentle way, then the blood, new blood start coming in. The new blood, because you're trying to get rid of grieving, the new blood doesn't carry that grieving aspect. The new blood comes with more oxygen, the more intention of joy. Yeah. So I would say first, I would think, accept and understand what's causing the grieving.
That's
Then
really
deal
interesting.
with it. Yeah.
And we could talk about that for a long time because my colleague Francis Weller, who teaches in the Cancer Help Program and has written a really beautiful book on grief, he sees grief as a kind of an apprenticeship, a rough initiation into a new phase of life. And so the tension that would be interesting to explore at some point would be the tension between seeing grief as stagnation and seeing grief as a growth process that leads to higher consciousness. In other words, when Carl Jung says that consciousness only expands at the expense of suffering, that suffering, it is only through suffering. And Patanjali's Yoga Sutra says the same thing. So the tension between seeing grief as stagnation and seeing grief as part of a painful process that is necessary for the growth of consciousness is interesting. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's very, very true.
You
But
do.
when you are in deep grieving, it's hard to come out,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So I want you to stop before it goes too deep.
I see.
Grieving. Start asking for help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
That's-
wait until you're too deep
Yeah.
in grieving. It'll take too much work to
Right.
reverse that. Yeah.
And several people asked if you would address the role of meditation.
Do you want to
No,
address
please,
that?
please.
Address the role of meditation?
In healing with cancer.
Yes, very good question.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I wanted to add in here is every cancer cell, every tumor, it has spirits to itself. You have a spirit, the tumor and cyst has spirit too, and they communicate with you, talk with you, fight with you all the time. You know, you fight with it all the time, and you just don't know about it. You know, it has eyes, it has feelings, just like you and I. So the role of meditation, like I say, you have to learn to be grounded, learn to be very quiet, very clear. Only when you are very clear, very calm, where you can hear a pin drop in your heart, not in the room, but in your heart, then you're at that calming stage. But how much can you reach that? How many seconds can you hold that thought? Right? Maybe 5 seconds, maybe a minute, then you bring yourself back, then you lost that quiet needle calmingness, okay? And then in the role of meditation, when you become very quiet, you will hear the energy that's talking to you. Your spirit, the other spirit will come out and talk to you. You will go, why am I so angry? Why all of a sudden I'm so sad? You know, that may not be you, that could be the tumor that's still talking to you. That's where the emotion was holding, like grieving in the lungs, lung cancer, right? Kidney is fear. That fearfulness all of a sudden will come out, enormous amount that you have no idea where it came from. That's a role of medicine. But are you afraid? I mean, you go, am I out of my mind? Should you be afraid to deal with that? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. If you do have this disease, you know, face the disease. Use a positive attitude. Now you understand. I told you the tumor cell itself has a spirit to itself, just like yourself. It has eyes, it has feeling, it has everything that you experience. It also has that same, it also wanted to grow. Just like us, we wanted to grow, right? It also wanted to grow. So that's the role of meditation. You can communicate, make deals.
So what is
calm it down.
what is, I mean, first of all, this is beautiful and fascinating, but in the communication that you can have with your tumor, what should your intention be about its independent feelings and hope to grow? How would you best relate to its independent thoughts, feelings, intention?
Very good question. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But I could tell you, you have to look at what happened that caused you the cancer, which stagnation that happened. What stagnated caused you this? Maybe it's an emotion, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's your environment. First, differentiate that. Then from that, differentiate into a new metabolic change, which is tumor or cyst that happened. So you have to still go to the root of the problem to treat the root of the problem of yourself, not others, but yourself. Then, when you found the root of the problem, this new spirit will also be taken care of. Okay, it's the imbalance that created another imbalance. So go back to the first imbalance that caused the problem. And then as you meditate and as you go over and over again, meditation is not hard, but not easy to stay still because our monkey mind are too monkey sometimes. And then if it's cannot calm, then you try to bring your back. Okay, so when that emotion or that second image or third image keep on flushing in, start facing it. That's your intuition. What is it? Why does this feeling keep on coming in? What is it that it's bothering me? So that's role of meditation. If you don't meditate, or if you're already a meditative person, that intuition comes in, that image comes in too, that feeling comes in too. Okay, but I would recommend everybody to try to meditate, try to stay as peaceful as you can. Not that easy, but not that hard either, right? And then every day just put a little bit time. And when you are at that anxiety moment, at that fearful moment, when you're being diagnosed or when bad news comes in, you have that meditation power to calm it down at that moment instead of taking a lot of Ativan or medication to slow down your mind because you're already trained your mind to do that.
Two things I haven't asked you. We've talked about acupuncture and pulse diagnosis and so forth. We haven't talked about whether or not you use traditional Chinese medical herbs much in your practice.
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes, we do. Yeah, like I said, TCM includes acupuncture and herbal medicine.
Right.
Back in the days when there was no chemical, in the medicine.
Right.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do. And I wanted to, we talked about this earlier. When do you use herbs?
Yeah.
When do you not use herbs? There's thousands of supplements, vitamins, all methods of treatment, okay? Depending on what stage the patient and what the patient is coming in for. Is it for prevention? They're already in remission, so you wanted to prevent, or is it because of a family history, so you wanted to prevent this from happening, or the patient has already been first diagnosed, hasn't become cancer yet. So depending on where the patient is, then we will, administer different type of herbs. Of course, herbs have a lot of controversial argument. Not organic, too much metal, toxin. We don't know where it's come from. There's no scientific done on it, And many of my patients, they come ask me that, how do you know this herb is safe for me? First of all, you will find, a very valued herbal company that have been practiced for a long time, who hopefully have organic herbs or approved in their origin of their country. And then look at the herbal prescription. If my late father always say, if the prescription has less than 12 herbs, then that's a good formula. And then have the patient start with very low dosage, not a huge amount of dosage. Especially when patients who are already going through chemotherapy or have had chemo or radiation, I believe their constitution, their DNA sort of changed, and they're not going to come back until another 5-6 years later. In that 5 years, be very careful. How do you formulate the prescription? Who do you find to help you to start nurturing and then keep that balancing yin and yang or qi and the blood back in the balance because the body already tipped off to one end. Now we're slowly building it up. That's what a very good practitioner should do. That's the traditional TCM work.
So how can a patient or family living somewhere else find the kind of traditional Chinese medicine practitioner that you would want people to be able to find? How can they do that?
Well, that's also a very, very good question. First, of course, by referrals, right? And then also look at the background. And then when it becomes number one, number two, to toxin, this patient has already gone through 5 to 10 years. So you have to look at this practitioner, him or herself, if they have practiced long enough to understand what's causing the stagnation and what's causing it to become toxic. A lot of my colleagues, I've seen their formula, their herbal formula, and I have friends at UCSF who show me a bag, a pharmacist show me a bag, say, what herbs are this? My patient are taking these Chinese herbs, and he died of cancer, liver failure. The patient come in for cancer treatment, died because they take the herbs, right? So very, very good question. I look at some of my colleagues' formula, I said, oh my God, this person really doesn't know what they're doing. I would say, stop doing that. So I get a few patients, they come for a second opinion because what they're doing doesn't work. So look at, from referral, look at the practitioner's background, if they specialize in this like if you wanted to eat Italian food, you wouldn't go to a Chinese restaurant, right? You would go to an Italian restaurant, right? You wouldn't expect spaghetti in a Chinese restaurant. So that's what, if you wanted to eat Mandarin Peking duck, you wouldn't go to a Cantonese dim sum restaurant to eat Peking duck. You would go to those specific areas. That's how you will find someone.
Say a little bit about your work with low-income families through, what is the name of the foundation?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. Thank you so much.
It's the Fountain?
It's a Fountain Project Foundation.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yes. This morning, I was at the Bay Area Rescue Mission at 8:15 a.m. in the men's shelter. We're doing a large-scale volunteer work, consists of many Western doctors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, chiropractors, where we will be doing a large scale of volunteer work for all the men and women in the shelter. And this specific shelter I work with, and I hope you all have a chance to work with the local shelter that you fall in love with, has 400 beds. They're always full. Okay. The people we work with are in a program inside the shelter. The program, they can live up to 1 year to 3 years. In the program, they learn about anger management, how to open a bank account, how to eat well, how to exercise. They take them out to exercise every day. We have a pilot program where we start teaching Qigong and Tai Chi, where Bradley is one of our teachers. And we teach Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation to them. Okay, so I believe this is the first shelter that Fountain Project has incorporated this alternative idea of softening their crushed mind back to their life again. Every story in the shelter, I don't know if you ever enter into a shelter. Each shelter has, for instance, a big building. Each room is one story, one sad story inside. You could have a room with one mom with 5 children in bunk beds. And next to it, you could have a drug addict who's just getting off the program, who screams at nighttime. You could have another room where the abusive mom, abusive wife who lives there by themselves. So in this world, you think your world is stressful. Think about you live there for a week. Can you survive? We're so fortunate to be able to sit here, have a good workshop, a good talk. We're so fortunate to meet each other. These are the people a lot of time you want to stay away from. But they're very kind people. When I was there this morning, I was there doing registration. Every patient has to be pre-registered to be seen. We tell them, this is all free services. We have a lot of sponsors that sponsor us to do this program. Our doctor, nobody's paid to do this. So go to what your heart can work with. If you like to join the Fountain Project as a volunteer, we can always use you. I mean, I always tell people, how often do you work directly one-on-one with a resident in the shelter? How lucky of you to get to work with them. From them, I see how lucky I am, how healthy I am, that I learned so much from their story that touches my heart. So hopefully you find someone that touches you, that you can pour your life over it. That's why I wasn't able to come until later today. Yes.
I don't know if all of you can feel it, but I'm able to feel in some sense what happens to the energy in the room when we're listening to someone with gifts like this. And I was reflecting on Master Liu and her husband and their journey to the United States and all that you did to create this work. And then you passed it on to Erlene as the fourth generation of your work. And Master Liu, I just want to honor you for your tremendous contribution and for giving us this beautiful soul who is continuing your work and your husband's work so beautifully. It's a true honor to be here with you. And Dr. Erlene Chiang, a great honor to be with you. And thank you all for coming. And we try to end on time. It's 1 o'clock. And so if you want to hear more about our collection of audio and video podcasts, Kira Epstein is the coordinator of the new school. She's at the back of the room. And our website is commonweal.org. Or if you want to go directly to the new school website, it's www.tns for the new school.commonweal.org. And we have about 200 podcasts and videos. Ken Adams is our sound and video technician and has worked with us for many years. So, and you will find 20 or 30 conversations like this about cancer, including conversations with Dr. Mark Reneker, Dr. Dwight McKee, Dr. Keith Block, many of the leading practitioners of integrative cancer care. So it's a great, great honor for me, Master Liu, and Dr. Erlene Chiang to have been with you this morning. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.